You come across a rickety rope bridge, spanning a massive chasm. The ropes dangle precariously from... No. A rickety old shack appears in the dim fog of the spire. Lights emanate through the cracks and... No, too verbose. A ghostly figure sits at a short table. He invites you to sit. Won't you have some tea with me? Okay, cool, but what does it do? Being creative is hard. The concept behind Spansion, besides being a dummy test project, is that it fills in gaps that I felt were missing before. This doesn't quite fit anymore, as some aspects have been covered or fixed since I started this, but I don't think I ever felt that events were missing anything. They just work. But the other part of this project is to document how to create a mod, so I've decided to just implement some basic versions of each type of event. The most basic actions are gaining and losing gold, HP, and max HP. So let's cover these first. These are all single function calls on the player, accessed through abstractdungeon.player. You gain gold with gain gold, and lose it with lose gold. Both take the integer value for the amount of gold. This has no animation to go with it, and it's nice to feel rewarded, so we want to add an effect. If we're losing gold, something else is probably happening, so we don't need an effect for that. But it's so nice to see gold raining from the sky. We can do this with abstractdungeon.effectlist.add, passing in a new raining gold effect. This effect needs the amount of gold to rain down. The healing and damaging functions should look familiar, as they are what we'd use in combat. Heal and damage, taking a damage info object. It's max HP that is new, being increase max HP and decrease max health. I find it interesting that one is HP and the other is health. It is worth noting that increase max HP comes with a heal for that amount. That heal provides visual and audio feedback to the player. Reducing max HP does not, however, so we should add another effect. I looked at the Golden Idol event and copied the effects from there. We're going to call cardcrawlgame.screenshake.shake with screenshake.shakeintensity.med, screenshake.shakedir.med, and false as the parameters. Let's also play the same sound effect using cardcrawlgame.sound.play blunt fast. Potions don't have a lot of options. You can basically give a potion or get a potion, but you can't give a potion if you have none, so we're going to want to account for this by checking abstractdungeon.player.hasAnyPotions. If they do, we want to pick a potion randomly by going to the player again and calling getRandomPotion, then setting our dialog option to specify the potion. If they don't have any though, we want to block the option by providing true to the second parameter of setDialogOption. This disables the option, letting the player know they could have done something if they met the conditions, like with the Forgotten Altar, Vampires, and Tomb of Lord Red Mask. To actually remove the potion, just pass in our random potion to the player function, removePotion. If the player takes the potion, we can generate the random potion with potionhelper.getRandomPotion. However, if we try to give the potion directly to the player, they won't have the opportunity to trade out an existing potion, and if they have no open potion slots, the potion we tried to give them is lost forever. Instead, the game adds these to the Combat Rewards menu and opens it to allow the player to grab it. We can add to the rewards screen by using abstractdungeon.getCurRoom.rewards.add, passing in a new reward item, potionhelper.getRandomPotion. We can then open the rewards screen with abstractdungeon.combatrewardscreen.open. To avoid generating an additional card reward with it though, we need to specify this.noCardsInReward is equal to true in the constructor of our event. Relics are a bit easier to work with. Instead of directly giving the player a relic, we want to call abstractDungeon.getCurRoom.spawnRelicAndObtain. We then need to pass the x and y coordinates to start the relic from. This will usually be the center of the screen, so we want settings.width divided by 2 and settings.height divided by 2. We can then pass in the relic to give. If we know the ID of the relic, we can call reliclibrary.getRelic and pass in the string ID. Make sure to make copy to avoid giving the game's base version of the relic. If we want to pick a random relic, we can call abstractDungeon.returnRandomRelic and pass in the relic tier we want to generate. Taking a relic is even easier if you know what you're looking for. Just call loseRelic on the player and pass in the relic ID. This is good for requirements, like the golden idol at the Moai head in Act 3. But what about a random relic to give up? We'll need to make a copy of the player's relic collection and shuffle it. Make a new array list of type abstractRelic, then add all abstractDungeon.player.relics to our list. Using collections, shuffle our new array list using a new Java random. We can get a random long for this random object from abstractDungeon.missRNG.randomLong. Now that our list is in a random order, just get the 0th element. But what about replacing relics? The Bloody Idol replaces the Golden Idol in the list. We need to know the location of the relic we're replacing. We can just use a loop on the player.relic list, comparing each relic's ID to the ID of the relic we're replacing. With that, get the relic using player.relics.get, using our found index, and call the onUnequip function. Finally, on the relic we are giving to the player, we can call instantObtain, passing in the player, the relic index, and a boolean for callOnEquip. The Bloody Idol's onEquip is not called in the Forgotten Altar event, so I won't call it here. Cards are the most complicated, to the point where I couldn't get a card-focused event to work without crashing the game. Making decisions on a list of cards, whether selecting new cards to add to your deck, cards to upgrade or bottle, or purging cards from the deck, requires creating a card group of the cards for the list, then passing that to abstractDungeon.gridSelectScreen.open, along with several other parameters. Then, in the update, you need to check to see that the grid has been closed and a selection made before we can do our action. But like I said, it tends to crash for me. Of the remaining types of events, part of me wants to look into how to make a gremlin minigame, but I'm not so sure that that is worth my time. I also want to look into making combat encounters as events, like with the bandits and the Colosseum. That could work well with an initial look into custom encounters and monsters, but I also realized I haven't made any custom potions yet. Oh dear. I'll at least get the card events working for April.